Eric, can you go ahead and pull up that Drew Afualo? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name. Pull up that clip. I want to get the panel and Michael's take on this. Go ahead.
Okay, so you think you're a 10?
Yeah. I think I'm gorgeous. I think I'm perfect.
Listen, don't take this the wrong way. You're not
Please
a 10.
lay it on me.
You're not a 10.
Okay. That's just your opinion.
All right. First of all, every time I feel like we stamp out a roach, aka a white man with a podcast like this,
Pause
he
it.
contributes literally nothing.
So he or she, Drew, said every time we stamp out a roach, a cockroach, aka a white man with a podcast. Now,
which is just redundant, by the way, right? Do all white men in America today have a podcast, I think?
Yes.
Are there any men who don't?
It's like a trope.
It's
a trope.
Re-put back in the world.
Yeah, like our voices are being silenced. Let's put them back out
we
there.
gotta reinforce it.
So basically, she was reacting to a clip from our podcast. We have a segment, actually, perhaps we should do it before we wrap, where we ask everyone to rate themselves on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of their physical appearance. And the girl said she was a 10, and
you said she's not.
I said she wasn't.
But that's your opinion.
Maybe there's like maybe she's a 10.
But so in any case, she's reacting to, I'm perhaps a bit blunt or rude in me saying, hey, look, I don't, she identifies as a 10 and I do not subscribe to her self-assessment. But I guess the troubling statement that I found there was, she says, another cockroach, or what did she say? We stamped out another cockroach, aka a white man with a podcast. Now, I think if you were to replace white man with any other group, that would be or at least viewed from someone who's
of course,
as a very troublesome statement.
White people are the only race that you're not only permitted to disparage, but actually encouraged to disparage, and you can legally discriminate against. And then men are the sex that you're allowed to publicly disparage, encouraged to do so, can discriminate
it's
against.
because they those two, white people as a race and men as a sex, whatever chromosomes, whatever makes you feel most comfortable putting it, have, yes, you guys can face discrimination, but there's no prejudice line in between it. So honestly, it's just words.
There's
it's
no
just
prejudice.
words.
She's called white people cockroaches.
Okay, and you want to know what I've been called? My people have been called last. I would rather you have that one
I don't
statement.
think you get called all those terrible things, do you?
I got a message yesterday saying he's gonna burn me alive like the nigga I am. So yes, I do all the day, constantly, day in, day out. That's the difference.
Disavow.
Is your life
disavow?
No, it's not.
No,
because when he's saying it's not happening,
I
when
just,
it is.
I just wonder, because so you get a message from a guy online, right? Every public person gets all these mean, really nasty messages. But in the culture, the only racially disparaging message that anyone could hear in movies and TV and music is against white people. You would never hear it against any other race.
Oh, you wouldn't? Because it's been in the movies and TVs and the
I had to
past.
hear
maybe one example.
I heard my white teacher read the hard N word. Like, what do you mean?
Well, that's fine.
Huckleberry Finn?
Yeah, if you're reading
I was
Huckleberry
talking
Finn.
about To Kill a Mockingbird. But it's
Well,
what you're not understanding is these words. What you're saying is because you guys didn't face the prejudice and discrimination for all those years backing behind it. Does it make it as make it as a problem?
Right
yes,
now,
no, it's not wrong.
Right now, all unjust racial prejudice at the public level is directed against white people. And to a little bit Asian people, because they get lumped in affirmative action too. It's the only race, also a little bit with Asians, but it's mostly white people. It is legal to discriminate against white people for the purposes of getting into colleges and getting jobs. That's not true of any other race. In fact, other races have an advantage. They get
up until when?
Because of what? Because why?
Yeah,
because why, Michael? Because why, Michael?
Diversity hiring practices.
But because why? Why are these in place? Why are these in place?
Because of an unconstitutional policy called affirmative action.
But why do we have affirmative action? Why? Why?
Because liberals have a racial caste system and they don't like white people.
Kiko.
Okay, but it's not being respectful when we're ignoring why these things are in place. Like, y'all didn't have black people enslaved for all these years. That's the reason why we have these things in place, because we're not equal.
No,
we're trying to create more equality because we're so far gone from that. I think America is too far gone anyway.
But slavery was abolished in 1865. It's 2023.
And when did segregation when was segregation fully? desegregated,
well,
I guess.
self-segregation still exists. And
That's
now
not what I asked
segregation
you.
exists as a matter of public
That's not what
policy
I
at
asked you.
universities. There are now at universities black-only dorms that white students are not allowed to enter. So segregation still exists today. It's just by choice.
I personally don't give a fuck. But that's not what I asked you.
You did. You asked
No,
me.
I asked when to segregate.
I said it's
Yes,
going
I'm
on.
talking
she
about
means
in this.
legal segregation.
That
You know
is
what I'm
legal
talking about.
segregation. It's going on today. I mean, it's.
I
Just,
mean,
it's
there's
been brought
segregation
back.
by
I think this is the
choice,
next podcast
obviously.
discussion because it's 11:55. And we
Yeah,
can go
I
all
agree with
night
her. I
this.
think we
Okay.
should do this on the next episode.
Sure.
Should not be getting introduced.
Last
at
question on
midnight.
that, though. So just really quick to put kind of maybe a cherry on top of that. How do you define racism?
I hate doing this off the top of my head.
Here's
Because
the
I don't want to say something and then
Sure.
you guys try to tear
Let
it
me
apart.
ask-
'Cause
let me ask
I
a
have a
different-
very
Let me come back to that question. Do you think you can be racist against white people?
no. You could be I think you could be
I feel like you could.
Hold on. I want to go around the table on this before Michael or I respond. What about you?
No.
No. So
No.
can't be racist against white
I think
people.
you can discriminate against them or you can
Be
be
prejudiced,
prejudiced against
but
them,
you
but
can't be
racism
racist.
comes from a place of like someone having less power over someone else or more power over
Okay,
someone
power
else.
but if white people right now can be discriminated against as a matter of law, and they're basically the only race for whom that is true, and if there are now major policies floating,
How
around
is that
big
the only
cities-
race that's true for? I feel
Asians also get lumped in to some degree.
races can still be discriminated against, and it happens all
Sure.
the time.
Wait,
So
just-
why is it?
No, they can be discriminated in favor. So they can. When black people apply to colleges, they can get a boost.
Okay, so you're
on the
using
basis
one
of their
example with
race.
colleges when you don't talk about
Or
police
workplace.
brutality
No,
or
no.
other
So
stuff
that's
like
also
that.
why because there wasn't there wasn't that demographic in colleges or workplaces as much. So it's
Right, I'm
allowing
just saying
them
either-
more access
I'm just
to be
saying-
able to get there.
But I'm just saying either way, if you just looked at someone's SAT scores, a black person and a white person with the same SAT score, the black person is going to get that spot at the university. That's what affirmative action does.
Wait. So can you be racist against white people?
No.
Tatum,
I say no.
a little louder. I didn't.
Sorry. No.
Victoria.
I thought, okay. Yes.
You just skip
You
it?
just skipped the
No,
one bit.
absolutely not. No, of course. And in this context, you just saw a video where someone was saying something blatantly racist, and she's not going to lose her job or get castigated. Most people at this table agree with her. The difference is, for you in your case, like what that person DM'd you is horrible, and everyone would condemn that. And that's where you can see the clear racism divide there, where you could see that you could say all these horrible things about white people. Everyone will white knight, and justifiably so. Or like for white people, no one will do that. And then if it's a black person, there will be so much action taking place.
It's because
for
we
it.
just don't feel that bad for y'all after everything. It's
You should feel bad for everybody because racism isn't a fair
I think-
treatment
I
of different
think
race or color.
There's-
It doesn't
it's not
specify
racism, it's
specific-
prejudice and
I feel like
discrimination.
honestly,
I
this isn't
agree
a
that
great topic for you, though, to be
prejudice
speaking
and
on,
discrimination
'cause
shouldn't
that's a whole
happen,
different thing
period. I
from
don't think she
culture
should be
divide.
saying that about white people, period. I don't think it's something that should happen. I'm not saying it's okay. It's wrong, no matter who
But
it's
it's not
to.
racist.
But you
But
just
it's
said you
not
can't be
racist.
racist.
It is.
It's
Open
not
the
racist
Oxford
'cause there's no-
Dictionary and define the term
Racist is for
racism.
someone
If I
who
can get
comes
my
from
phone right now,
power.
I would love
Does
to
she
look it
come
up.
from
From
power?
different
No.
racism is unfair treatment
But-
based on different
That's-
race.
But even by your definition, even if it's just from power,
Like
right
someone
now,
who has
but
like legal power.
hold
from
on.
the past.
right, but so
Hold on.
even from that position, right now, the legal power is such in the country that if you are a white person, it is lawful for you to be discriminated against. If
So
you're a
where's the
non-white person,
power
it's-
reside in the country? Let's look at most people
Well,
in politics.
if you-
Let's look at most people have power. Let's look at the past, the history. Like you always like to bring
I
up
know.
the history.
Yeah.
Where does that lie with white people? So why they have the power? So yes, maybe she called you a cockroach. I'm so sorry, but you guys don't really have to feel racism to the extent that people of color do, and you'll never understand it because you're not a person of color.
But even-
period. You
even-
won't get it. It's the
even-
same
well,
thing as you
Michael,
won't
you're
understand stuff that
Italian.
women have
Yeah.
to deal with,
The-
and we won't understand stuff that men have to
I
deal
mean-
with. That's
It's
just
like
period.
even the fact that you could see, like, I can giggle and laugh in a second though, but like I don't care what anyone says. I could tell from sitting at this table, we are the two most POC color people at
Yes.
this table,
Well,
and you
the
can sit and
Sicilians.
have this conversation and laugh and giggle and have funny times.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not anything funny
But-
to
but
us
the
right now.
only-
Yeah,
the
because
only-
it's something
Because
we
this
deal
is
with
our
on a
livelihood.
daily
You know
life
what's really
basis.
our livelihood.
Yes,
You know,
really
exactly.
serious though. You know what's really serious? The only race in America, and also the Asians a little bit, but pretty much the only race
Okay, he's
that
gonna
you can
repeat the same
discriminate
thing for the
against.
fourth time.
Stop
But repeat this
interrupting.
four
Stop
times.
interrupting. Let
Because
him finish.
you can sit here and laugh and giggle at the fact that white people are discriminated against in America as a matter of law, and you can laugh and giggle at the fact that men can be discriminated against, can be castigated castigated publicly, can be disparaged, and that will be encouraged. So you can laugh about that because you guys have the power and you're allowed to enjoy that. But we, the poor straight white males here, we feel that and we laugh about it too.
Poor straight white males.
How many times?
So he
have,
repeated the same thing 4 times.
Michael, let me ask you a question. How many times have you been attacked when you're like just doing something, like walking around the street? No, but without being known, because now you're probably known.
Yeah, I've been attacked a few times.
People come up to you and been like, "Oh, you crazy white person," and just attacking you purely for your race. You need to leave. I've been attacked multiple times, and it's happened to me.
Really?
And that's
people
wrong.
come up to you on the street. They say,
Yes, I was a 4-year-old
I've been called a
girl
nigger
with
to my face more than 5 times in public. Yes.
By whom?
Random people.
One time it was an Asian lady. It's been 3 older white men. It's usually older white men.
Older white men.
And then a white lady as well.
By older white men.
In what context? They just walk up.
One person, I honked at somebody because they almost hit my car. She rolled her window, nigger.
Oh, you know what I want?
Another time I went with my friends. This is the first time I ever got called to my face. When I was 16 years old, my friends from K through 8 took me to their friend's house. He actually went to play the next year. He played 4 years as a linebacker at Alabama, right? We're at his auto body shop. I walk in. He's like to his friend, "Oh, y'all brought the nigger with you."
Have you ever
it's
been,
nothing. Like it's nothing.
Have you ever been racially
What am I
profiled?
supposed to say to this 300-pound, 6'5" white dude? You know when I sit there, I'm just sitting there smiling, getting called that shit to my face. You don't have to deal with that shit.
You know what I wonder though? I do wonder.
You don't have to fear for your life because you're white.
Listen, I think you could probably handle yourself pretty well. But
by 125 pounds,
I think he goes probably pretty scrappy. But I wonder in that first instance, which is obviously not to excuse it, but in that first instance, do you think the guy called you that, or the lady or whoever it was, because that person hates black people? Or do you think, as I frequently think these sorts of things go, do you think that person called you that because that person didn't like you and didn't like what you did or how you were driving?
And so they don't like black people.
And so I just don't think it's that. Like, for instance, I've been called a Guido,
I have another
right?
instance because...
Well, I've been called a Guido, and I don't think it's because the person hates Italian people. I think it's because the person doesn't like me.
Okay,
and so
I'm half Italian too, and that's not anywhere near.
Wait,
Guido is nowhere near nigger, so that's not even
those
two things.
It's exactly.
Okay,
it's just another racial slur.
I might be so mad at what a Mexican or person does on the street. My first reaction isn't to be calling them the B word. That's not where my mind goes. Someone who their first reaction is call you as a B word is because they hate all Mexicans. That's where that stems from.
I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think someone who calls
Let me give you an instance.
I don't think
listen. I was 5 years old and I was with my older sister. We're both very obviously POC. We're at Barnes and Nobles.
That's so obvious.
And we're reading books. Just reading books, minding our own business. A white man comes up to us and
pull
he
the
says,
microphone closer towards you.
"You two need to leave. You don't belong here. Your people are ruining this country." And he started harassing us. So we had to get the people in Barnes and Noble saw this. Obviously, were like, "Okay, that's not okay. We're 2 young girls." The police were called. Things were happening because he was physically attacking us and verbally attacking us.
He was physically attacking?
Yeah, he was pushing my sister. It got extreme, and it's just because we're sitting there reading books. Like, what is?
People can be violent, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has really anything to do with your race.
You don't think that was related to
yelling at me
to
and there's other little kids
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing to say all these words. It's totally bad, but it doesn't mean you should, like what we've seen in the videos, that the black or Afro-American woman was relating her hate towards another race. So she was trying to do what you have been trying to get rid of for so long. So how does it make a difference?
None of us said it was okay. We just said it's not racist. None of us said that she could continue doing that. We just said because of the history of how racism, according to sociology and how the term is defined, it's not racist because y'all haven't faced any oppression for it to be racism. It's just discriminatory.
If the law discriminates against you, it's obviously some kind of oppression.
Wait.
And I just also wonder, like, you've mentioned this, that you've been called all sorts of mean names because you're black. I would not know that you're black if you didn't tell me that.
That's the thing, because maybe you're not racist. I wouldn't believe you're racist. I would never think you're racist.
But I would think you're
racist people. Yeah. I am half Italian. I'm 25% Sicilian. The rest from northern Italy. Yeah. But that's the thing. Those racist people, a lot of people could think I'm Italian or Latin, whatever. Yeah. Racist people, they can tell. That 2% blood, whatever they can. I don't know if they can sniff it out of me. They know. They know.
Maybe.
I'm telling you, because I
don't even think it matters whether or not they know she's black. Like, I've been called black so many times and I'm not even black. Yeah. It's just they assume, they generalize. They just, like, I would think you're white passing, even if you're a person of color.
I'm white passing.
Yes.
Am I a person of color passing?
No.
So then I'm just white.
Wait, so how about this? Throughout,
or I'm nothing.
Throughout history, have white people ever faced racism at any point in history?
Yeah, obviously there
Where?
was. Well, there was.
I can think of a few.
There was
Where?
the whole Holocaust.
But that's at the hands of other white people.
Yes.
Let's talk about the hands of someone that's not white. It does.
It was at the
because it's
hands
white
of
on
other
white
white people,
crime.
so it's
And
like-
so
I
let's
agree.
talk about
there
some
was, not to
POCs.
get too touchy politically, but there was this study that just came out that got everybody in a lot of trouble, like the Dilbert guy, because it was a study about feelings of racial consciousness and racial antipathy. And so there's a Pew Research study that came out on racial consciousness, and it examined Asians, Hispanics, blacks, and whites. Found out the question was, is your race somewhat or very important to your identity? And for Asians, Hispanics, and blacks, it was all 50+%. For black people, it was over 70%. For white people, it was 15%. It's very low racial identity. And then there was this survey.
Why
that
do you
got the
think
Dilbert
that
guy
is?
in
Because
trouble.
y'all don't have to consider your racial identity day to day. I can't basically
all
live
I
a
hear
single
about
day
is
of my
race.
life. I can't go a single day of my life almost without being reminded that I'm black.
Literally, it's so
because y'all don't have to deal with
it's
it. Like
so
you just proved
intertwined
it to
into
us with that.
society. You
with
don't
that
even see
stat
it.
right
It
there.
happens in everyday life for us, and you don't even see it because you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's nothing to you. Your race is not a thought to you because you're just a white man. It's nothing to you. Me being a black woman, I have to navigate certain things. I have to be like, okay, maybe like me and my mom stopped somewhere before. My mom's black. We on the way from San Francisco to here, we stopped somewhere, had to leave because we were threatened to leave because it was like San Ardo or something. We didn't realize
That's
that we
illegal.
stopped.
You bring a civil rights suit, you
You
go down to
don't
a
have to
restaurant.
consciously be like, oh, I can't stop here because it's the sun downtown. I can't stop here because they're known for being racist.
There are plenty of places where I wouldn't stop because I'd get shot or
Why?
mugged.
Because what you go online and say, right? Because of how you persona, not because you're a white man.
No, because I'm a sort of preppy-looking white guy driving, I actually don't drive a very nice car. But if I drive into certain neighborhoods, I am probably going to be hassled a little bit. And probably my race would have something to do with
I think it just had. I don't think it have to do with your race. I think it just have to do with whether or not you're a person who looks.
You don't think a white guy rolls up, a sort of relatively modest-looking white guy rolls up into Watts in the middle of the night and pulls into a gas station wearing a pink polo shirt, going to the ATM. You don't think he's going to get hassled a little bit?
I think
but so is a black woman. Like anyone's going to get hassled in that situation, not just a white man. You're not getting hassled in that situation because you're a white man.
You don't think that the white guy who rolls up into Compton in the middle of the night at the ATM, you don't think he's more likely to be harassed than
an Asian guy
person?
or
no, I don't. I think they're going
Really?
to equally be harassed unless they're both clearly packing a gun or something. Unless the white man's a lot smaller than the other man, if they're the same size, you're equally going to get harassed. You're not getting harassed more because you're a white man.
I don't know that that's borne out in the real experience of violent crime. But.
Irish too, by the way. The Irish too. They were. They
were sort of. They were discriminating. I'm part Irish, but I'm not.
They were
Irish
discriminating
passing.
against who?
The Irish were
discriminated
against.
Yeah.
Oh, against by who?
The English.
So white on white. Okay, so once again, got it.
They're not going to get anyone.
That's almost like victim blaming.
What?
It doesn't.
How is that victim blaming?
We're just
saying
what you're saying.
That's
what
not
you're
a problem
saying,
on race. That's it maybe has to do with origin of where they came from, but it has nothing to do with like skin tone.
Also,
it has nothing to do with that.
There hasn't. White people don't migrate into predominantly black countries. Other than colonialism, which isn't exactly regular migration. In modern times, that doesn't happen, so there would be no historical example for that.
So we migrated into this area, or you guys colonized this area?
Well, it depends which people you're talking about.
So both Hispanics, slaves. I mean, you took African American people from Africa, brought them here, and you're like, oh well, now we don't want you here.
Descendants of slaves, obviously.
Okay, Mexican people. They are
California was Mexico.
Literally. So I don't know what you're talking about.
But there are many. There are 2 million illegal aliens who cross into the country
wow.
every single year.
Aliens! Wow, they're not
Brian,
humans.
let's
Abortion.
go.
Well, no, that's just
I'm
ready.
It's illegal.
Alien just means a foreigner. But I'm just saying they're not people from California. They're people who come up from Nicaragua, Honduras.
I think it's a technical term.
It's a legal term, like I'm an alien in this country.
Yeah, you're a resident alien.
She's a Ukrainian.
It's not like ET.
Besides the point, you're saying they came here.
Yeah, so they'll come from Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala. So they're not. It's not like they were living in Texas or California. They've chosen to immigrate into the country, and that happens a lot.
So I'm saying there's a lot of people who lived here way long before, because this used to be Mexico, right? You pushed them out. We pushed them. I'm not saying you,
sort of,
but
yeah.
the past.
It was Michael. It was actually Michael is genocidal, so it was actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, okay.
I am.
So you pushed them out, and now they want to come back, and you're like, no, you're illegal now, so we can't. do that.
Well, no. It's when you take annex a territory. It's not that you deport everyone. It didn't deport all the sort of
because it wasn't
Tex-Mex people
deporting
down
back
to
then. It
Peru
was
or
just
something.
like
That's
killing
not what
them and
happened.
saying leave.
No, not really. I mean, even
I mean, there wasn't really a law. The United States wasn't developed.
No, there wasn't a genocide of the Mexican people at the annexation.
There was genocide of the Native American people. There's genocide
not
of
really.
other people.
There were.
Oh, there wasn't?
Not really. Not in the way that you would probably be describing. No, I mean, it's much more complicated. The settler-Indian relations were very complicated. I think about some of my ancestors.
Black and white.
You're right.
I just happen to have read certain history books and can tell you what happened. And so, like for instance, when the Pilgrims come here, they create a great alliance with the Massasoit and the Wampanoag Indians. They didn't just go slaughter everybody. In fact, the Wampanoags helped the Pilgrims to go attack the Massachusetts. And so it's just a much more complicated history than a lot of people want to pretend, which is like white man bad, everyone else good.
I don't think it's just I agree. I don't think it's black and white, but I'm saying it's very complex, and it's a very complex thing that I don't think you guys will ever understand.
Yeah, I think I can. If you got rational faculties, you can understand a lot,
Not really, unless you there's just
I don't need to suffer cancer to understand how cancer functions.
I feel like not to research it, sure, but like no matter how much you say, you will never understand what somebody's going through with cancer unless you have cancer. I could never claim to know what that's like. That's asinine to say that.
Yeah,
the reason that there's such a thing as sympathy or compassion.
Empathy?
Yeah, well, empathy.
Is that what you're looking for?
No, empathy is when you actually do have an experience that one shares. But what I'm talking about is sympathy or compassion, which is suffering with somebody. That we do all the time. That's
you're suffering with them, but you're not experiencing what they're experiencing. Yeah. Just because you know somebody who has cancer doesn't mean you now know what it feels like to have cancer. That's what you just said.
But the problem is that if we cannot understand the private feelings of other people, if we cannot communicate that in any way, then there cannot be any such thing as society.
I agree, and we should try to understand. But if we cannot accept the fact that even if we try to understand, we will never truly understand 100% unless we have gone through it. We have to accept that as well.
But then, Kiko, I could tell you, you can never understand my experience.
I won't.
You can never. But you're purporting to. You're saying that white people haven't suffered depression. You're saying that I'm.
Yeah,
white.
but I'm sure you have experiences as a person.
Sicilian.
I'm sure you have experiences that you're as an individual being, as a Christian man, whatever. I wouldn't understand experiences.
As a non-white person, is how you, I guess, identify.
I'm half white, technically. But go ahead.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, and Sicilian, that's a liminal question. But I'm just saying, you are identifying as not white, right? Mm-hmm. So as a non-white identifying person, I'm just telling you, based on your own logic, you could never understand. You could never understand the suffering, the constant turmoil.
Yeah, see, now you're saying all the suffering and stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't say you've endured such suffering, but your life experiences.
It's just absurd when it goes in the other direction, because it just means we couldn't communicate.
You could try to understand, but
to
understand, you have to understand.
And you can see that there was suffering, like you're just saying, like sympathy. You can understand.
But I'm joking. I don't think about suffering ever. Almost, suffering is just a fact of life, and it can be. It's neither good nor bad. It's a bad, sad fact of the world that we all suffer, but it doesn't. The only thing that matters morally is how you react to suffering. It can either be degrading or it can be edifying, sanctifying.
One super chat, and then we're going to wrap. All right, we have